Good afternoon, Louisiana. Welcome to a Monday, March 28th edition of Bayou Bets here on bet.nola.com. I'm Zach Ewing, along with Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart. It's Final Four week in New Orleans, and we have the four teams that will be coming to town this weekend for the semifinals Saturday at the Superdome, and then the championship game a week from tonight at the Caesars Superdome to crown a new national champion. We know that the winner will be clad in blue, and we know they will be a blue blood because all four teams, Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas, fit that bill. So, guys, in some ways you hope for upsets at the beginning of a tournament, which we got, and then you hope for great matchups at the end of a tournament, which we also have. So in that way, you got to be happy with what's coming to New Orleans.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is about as good as you could have. You couldn't have really planned it any better. It's like party like it's 1989, right? I mean, it's we're going back at old school. You know, I've been lucky enough to work a few Final Fours, and I've seen a lot of blue bloods throughout. I don't know that I've ever seen a Final Four like this in 20 years. So it's gonna be interesting. And judging by the ticket prices, luckily, we don't have to pay to be in attendance because I would have to take out part of my retirement plan to be able to go to this thing.
Yeah, you're looking at $3,000 plus to get into the stadium on Saturday night.
Just for the
Monday will be cheaper actually, just because half the fans will leave town. That's how it works.
Not if Duke wins, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's true too. You have the Coach K angle. You say that you couldn't have planned it any better. I certainly could have planned it better. I could have used a Kansas loss somewhere along the line. I'm wearing black today. I'm in mourning. But Kansas did make it. They took their road paved in gold, and they did what they were supposed to do. They held off Providence on Friday, and then they thumped Miami in the second half yesterday. So, Spencer, your thoughts on the four teams we've got here?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that it ended up four blue bloods, considering the theme of this tournament was all the upsets that had happened throughout. But at the end of the day, four of the best ended up making it. And so it'll be interesting to see how these shake out. Of course, the Duke, North Carolina thing, it seems like a movie script with Coach K's final season. We'll see how that goes. And then the Villanova, Kansas should be a really good one as well.
Yeah. I would like to remind you that Bayou Bets is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. You can get, if you have not signed up yet, you can sign up and get a free bet insured up to $1,100. So basically the way it works is you bet on something, any amount up to and including $1,100. If you lose, you get a free bet for that same amount. And so you basically get two chances to win that bet, which is a pretty good deal. So go to NOLA.com/Caesars or use code NOLACZR when you sign up in the App Store for the Caesars Sportsbook app. And bet.NOLA.com has you hooked up on that deal for the Final Four or anything else you want to bet.
So, Zach, what happens if you bet $1,101? Do you get $1,100 insured, or are you just hosed?
I don't know, but I would just go ahead and bet $1,100. All right.
I mean,
if you do that, I'll give you the extra $1.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where they come up with $1,100. Not why it's not $1,000 or anything, but hey,
because I think BetMGM has one that's $1,000.
Okay, well, see, that's why Caesars is better. There you go. Semifinal games with the lines, two games with similar lines. The first game Saturday evening is Villanova and Kansas. The Jayhawks are opened as 3.5-point favorites. It's moved up now to 4.5. Originally, I was thinking Villanova was kind of a tough matchup for Kansas, but the odds maker's not seen it that way, Jim.
No, and the bettors have not been very right the last week or so. They did a good job the first week, made some money, but I think this weekend that Vegas won. I like Villanova. I think I had Villanova in my championship game from day one. They're in two of my brackets in the championship game. I think that Villanova is highly underrated. I think the coaching, not that there's anything wrong with Bill Self, because I think he does a great job, but I mean, Jay Wright is the best coach not named Coach K in this tournament left, and Coach K is 75 years old. So I just think that Villanova has the pieces, and if it comes down to crunch time, that they're going to find a way to win, and they're the best free throw shooting team in the country. So if they have a lead in the last 5 minutes, I really like their chances. So that might be a game where I'd rather play it live because if Villanova does have a lead towards the end, they're way less likely to blow it than Kansas would.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing here, and I wonder, you wonder how much one player will move the line when he's not a true superstar. But Justin Moore, who's the starting two guard for Villanova, is out. He tore his Achilles late in that Elite Eight game against Houston. 14.4 points, 5.8 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.1 steals per game. He's just a well-rounded player and a guy they're certainly going to miss. So that may have part to do with why this line is moved in Kansas' favor. But you're right. Look, especially if you're betting on an underdog, you love to have that free throw difference in the last few minutes. And if you could get them live at -1, -2, -3, if they get out to a lead, you like their chances of extending a lead in the final minute and covering for you. So, Spencer, your take on this first semifinal?
Yeah, for sure. I'm more with Jim on this, as far as I think it'll be a deal where Villanova can definitely cover and could win outright. I think their money line's probably tempting there, but I'd probably just pick them to cover. Yeah, that 4.5, I feel like is a good number for them to come within, because Kansas, I mean, the first half against Miami, they were really struggling. Yeah, they turned it up in the second half, ended up blowing them out, but they had an easy road, I feel like, in that Midwest region. Villanova, I feel like, had a little tougher road in their region. So I would go with Nova here if I had to pick.
Yeah, I mean, Villanova is plus 170 on the money line. Kansas is -200. So it's interesting. Like, you talk about how much you like Villanova, Jim. I like them too. That region's just so tough. You got to give them credit for coming out of that. Arizona, Houston, Tennessee, Illinois, in that region. I mean, I would honestly say all four of those teams, Arizona, Houston, Tennessee, Illinois, are better than anyone Kansas has played, and it's not particularly close. Now, that doesn't really matter. They're here. And so,
Zach, you could argue that Houston was the best team remaining on that side of the bracket going into last weekend. And the way Villanova played against them, I'm not so sure Houston wasn't the better team. Villanova had they had the game plan so mapped out perfectly. And the fact that they have, we talked about a week to prepare for Kansas, I think gives a major advantage to Villanova, even without one of their better players. So that's why I like them, I think, in this one. But, man, Houston, if you play that game 10 times, I think Houston might win 7 times. And I was really
Houston
impressed
could
with
get water from a boat. They just had a terrible shoot, 1 for 20, I think, from 3-point range, which just doesn't have. I mean, that was the number 10 offense in efficiency during the regular season, went 1 for 20. And some of that's Villanova's defense. I mean, let's not discount that, but not all of it. Some of those were good looks, and they just couldn't hit them. They had a bad day. Yeah, I mean, when the Elite Eight started, Houston was the betting favorite to win the whole tournament. I think they were slightly ahead of Kansas, actually, and that's with a tougher Elite Eight opponent than Kansas had. So that's a really good team, but Villanova survived that, so now they get Kansas. They are underdogs. The late semifinal on Saturday in prime time, and this is hard to believe too, the first time Duke and Carolina have ever played in the NCAA tournament comes in the Final Four in Coach K's last year. Like, I'm sorry, but like, Hollywood can't write Will Smith slapping Chris Rock scripts. They couldn't write this one either. Like, the first
time they didn't write that
this
script last night?
I'm sure. There's no way. Listen, I've been through all those Zapruder films today. That was a real slap.
Yeah, I don't know. The way Chris Rock didn't react with the way that I would have reacted, I guess.
And that was the most impressive thing. But Will Smith's not yelling out curse words if it was scripted. That's not part of the script. So there was, I don't know. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
We digress.
That's honestly what probably everyone wants to talk about today. But Duke and Carolina, I mean, listen, especially given that 3 weeks ago, North Carolina ended Coach K's tenure in Cameron Indoor Stadium by beating the hell out of him, really. Could they do it again? Could they end his career, too, in the Final Four?
I mean, they could, but I think that the best thing that happened to Duke, and I really believe this because I didn't think they were playing that well at the end of the season. I think now the best thing that happened to Duke is losing at Cameron Indoor Arena against this team. Had they beaten the tar, pardon the pun, out of this team. I don't know that I'd go in as confident on Duke as I am. And again, I have a future on them. So I'm rooting for Duke. There's no question. I'm not going to bet the game because I have a future on Duke. And I have a hedge on North Carolina now. But I just think that Duke, as they showed in the first matchup they played them when they beat them by like 20 points, I think Duke's a much better team than North Carolina. And I get that they're playing with a lot of emotion and they ran through the bracket. But to be honest, the competition they had other than UCLA, it wasn't that great. Baylor wasn't playing that wonderful, and I'm not sold on North Carolina.
Argument, man. Baylor's a good team.
Baylor's okay. I mean, they deserve the number 1 seed, but this is a weird year where, I mean, you could have thrown all the 1s and 2s and 3s except for Gonzaga up in a hat and picked them out of a hat and placed them wherever you wanted to. I mean, I think what Duke was able to do was more impressive. None of that matters now. The point is, I think Duke's a better basketball team. You're talking about 5 guys that are going to be playing, 5, 6 guys maybe for Duke that are going to be playing on daily, making a lot of money playing after this year is over. And I think Duke is clearly the better team. I honestly don't think it's going to be that close.
Yeah, I mean, Duke has a lot of talent, Spencer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you got to remember Carolina's an 8 seed. I know seeding doesn't really matter at this point, but they're a team that wasn't even supposed to be here. I mean, they had the impressive Baylor win, but yeah, they were clearly superior to St. Peter's. I know St. Peter's has had their magical run and knocked off some good teams, but I kind of think this week, this coming Saturday, North Carolina's magical run's going to run out because, I mean, they've exceeded expectations there. They didn't have that great of a season overall. I mean, they made a Final Four run, but yeah, I don't see them being able to knock off Duke in Coach K's final year. Yeah, they spoiled his party at Cameron Indoor, but they're not going to spoil his party when it really matters.
Yeah, I'm with you guys in the fact that I think this line should be more like 5 or 6, and maybe it will be by Saturday. I don't know. 4 seems a little bit light to me. I don't discount the fact that Carolina could win, especially with the way they're shooting. But yeah, I do like Duke here. I feel chalky, but I like both favorites, so I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind by Saturday. But anyway,
you don't like both.
No. Yeah, that's the wrong word.
You think both favorites will cover? There's a difference.
Yes. Jim and I will be in New Orleans starting Saturday. We'll have some live videos for you throughout the weekend there, both Saturday and then next Monday for the championship game. So keep an eye out for those on the Bet.NOLA Facebook and Twitter feeds. Think Uncle Big Nick makes a good point here too. Like sometimes being at home is more pressure because you just feel like we have to win this game.
It's right.
And I don't,
especially, right.
You know, of course you feel like you got to win a Final Four game too, but I get what he's saying there.
I agree. Mark that
boring,
in your book.
Man.
I
you
agree
with Nick.
Big,
You're agreeing. Yeah. I'm agreeing with you. What's going on here?
We didn't agree on the pimp slap.
That's right. We did not agree on the slap, and I'll bring this up too. Listen. Oh, that's the wrong one. Chris Rock. He was clearly flustered. He didn't. He didn't like. He was mixing up his words afterward. I mean, go watch it again. He was like saying
I watched it 5 times.
He was like the supporting actors. I mean, the nominees. Like he was clearly flustered.
Did y'all see the raw and uncut version?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, I felt like it was real after seeing that because
Will Smith just won an Academy Award he's won Best Actor awards. They know how to act. They get paid to act. Wrestling guys don't get paid to act, and they make a lot of money too. So
just because they get paid to act doesn't mean that they have to be acting. And they don't act their entire lives.
But there's no way that happens at the Oscars.
Our producer Patrick just made a good point too. He said, look, go back and watch Will in the commercial break. The guy was like breaking down. Denzel Washington had to come over and calm him down.
Of course. He's going to be filmed from every angle. To be broken down.
You guys are too cynical.
Scripted.
No. Anyway, championship odds. This is where I'm a little bit surprised. Kansas is higher in most power ratings than Duke, but just by a couple
and their
points, but they
power
are.
ratings.
Well, this is how lines are made, Jim. I mean, am I wrong? Ken
Not
Palm,
necessarily.
Ken Palm can predict lines within a point usually, and he would have Kansas favored over Duke by 2 as of right now. Now things could change. So I'm a little surprised. I think there's some value on Kansas here, and it's not just me, trying to profit off of my misery, but I am a little surprised by this. But you're not.
You want a little disagreement. Here you go. I don't think there's value in either of those two favorites. If you haven't bet them already, you missed the boat. You can't bet them now. Either one of them. There's no clear-cut favorite in this thing. Any of these 14. I mean, there's no one that's going to be surprised if any of these 4 teams win the national championship. Therefore, the only value to me is in the bottom 2 teams, and especially in Villanova, because I think Villanova is going to beat Kansas. So, and then if you look and if they were to beat Kansas, what are their odds going to be no matter who they play? If they play North Carolina, they'll be a favorite. If they play Duke, they'll probably be plus 170, plus 180, maybe. So I think the only value in this is Villanova. And again, I bet North Carolina as a hedge to Duke. And I didn't want to just bet it for one game because obviously if you're not going to get the value in playing them again in the next round. So I took North Carolina as my hedge. I'll worry about what happens in the other game later, but I'm tempted to put some money down on Villanova. It's just kind of counterintuitive to what I already have, so I probably won't. And I'm really ticked at myself that I missed the boat because I said they were good value back last week when they were plus 1,200, and I'm really kind of kicking myself for not taking them then.
I do agree with you. The Duke, that Duke line is ridiculous. You can't bet that. Kansas, I see a little bit of value, but it's I don't know.
People will bet Duke though. They will bet them.
Tell you what, drop in your comments if you like a bet here. Tell us what it is. Put it in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, and let us know where your money is headed. And Spencer the Guru, how about you? You see anything here you like?
Yeah, I would say if I had to pick one, it'd be Villanova. The 4.5 to 1. I see value there, considering they could easily get past Kansas. But I don't think the Duke value at 1.5 to 1 is that bad because I definitely think they're the clear favorites over North Carolina. So I mean, and then if they'll be in the championship most likely and likely the favorite in that against Nova or Kansas. So to me, them at 1.5 to 1 isn't. I mean, I probably wouldn't bet it, but it's not that bad. I mean, I'm glad I got a futures on them a while back, but shoot, if you really want to bet them, that's not terrible there. I don't feel like.
I think you're paying some hefty vig there.
Big time.
If you're betting Duke now, I don't like that. Yeah.
No, you can't
so that's all next weekend in New Orleans. Duke and North Carolina is the late game. Villanova and Kansas is the appetizer, if you will, Saturday, and then the championship game. It's at like 8:20 or something Monday night. I can't believe they do it so late anymore. 9:20 Eastern time. Like, what is that really?
I guess they do that for the West Coast.
The West Coast, I guess, but if you do it at 8:20 Eastern, it's still 5:20 for the. I find it weird. I know it's all for TV, but I find it weird what the TV networks want. So, anyway, that's the story of the men's tournament. The women's tournament is still in the Elite Eight. There's still 6 teams left. They got 2 of them into the Final Four yesterday. That would be South Carolina and Stanford. And then big game tonight, UConn is favored as the 2 seed over number 1 seed NC State. The other game is Louisville and Michigan. I've been on Louisville for a while. I had them at, I think, 14 to 1 or 15 to 1 from a couple of months ago. I don't know that they'll win it, but I still see some value here, plus 850. They got Michigan tonight, a game they should win. And then, they'll be underdogs in the Final Four, but not big underdogs. And they have an explosive offense.
I agree with you, Zach. And here's one thing. And I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. This is one rare time, though, when I will take South Carolina at plus 110, and you can have the field. Even money to bet on South Carolina to win it all. They are going to win it all. I don't think there's anything that can beat them. Certainly not. The only team I think that has any chance to beat them at all is Stanford, and I don't think it's going to happen.
And that was
But
the
I do
championship
agree
game
that
last year
value
at
in
Stanford.
there
right?
is there is value in Louisville.
Spencer, any take here? I'm trying to think if Louisville wins tonight, who plays who in the championship game? I'm gonna look that up. Go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm with Jim on this. I feel like the chalk play is the way to go here with South Carolina being so dominant, and also with it still being in the Elite Eight. Once the Final Four set, those odds are going to drop. They'll be in the probably minus 110 or lower once the Final Four set. So yeah, I could get a little bit of value with them there at plus 110.
Okay, so it would be the Louisville Michigan winner plays South Carolina, and then the NC State UConn winner plays Stanford. So that's the way the bracket sets up. And the women's Final Four is in Minneapolis, by the way, starts on Friday. So not as that's another factor here too, is not as big of a turnaround, especially for the teams that play tonight. Like 3 days off is what they get in the regular season, but you're talking about not knowing who you're going to play, having to travel back home and then travel to Minneapolis. I do find that to be a little bit of a factor on the women's side.
Yeah, well, they don't treat the girls the same way they treat the guys.
Which has been
I'm not being funny.
No, it's been a point of contention in the NCAA for several years now, and it's still not quite the same. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but maybe you move the women's tournament and play it a day sooner rather than a day later.
Or play on different weekends.
Yeah. No, that's true too. So anyway, I tend to agree with you guys. South Carolina has the most talent. In the end, they probably win. Take them at plus money while you can. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, you get UConn in a championship game.
Come on.
You get UConn in a championship game. I'm not sure I'd feel real good betting against Gino Auriemma either.
Come on, we'll have a little side bet. I
thought we agreed last week the root beer that I won off of you in big bucks, we're going to double or nothing that root beer.
Root beer is too boring. We could do like Parkway or something. Go get a po' boy.
All right, we can do that.
So you got the field, now I got South Carolina.
All right.
Okay.
Dawn Staley's going to cost me again. Man. I'll buy you a mother's po' boy.
Yes, I'll take it.
All right. Let's see. What else do we have besides college basketball? We have a lot, actually. We have the Pelicans playing just not exactly the way they drew it up, but getting their biggest win of the season, down by 20 at the half, come back and win this game. Spencer, you wrote about it in our Bayou Bets newsletter, which you can sign up for at bet.nola.com. This is one they really had to have. And a team that has to have a game and comes out and lays an egg in the first half, you think, what the hell is going on here? But in the end, they got the job done.
I know, right? Yeah, that was wild. I was keeping up with it early, then I kind of just shut it off for a little while there, being that they were down by so much. Then I checked my phone and saw in the fourth quarter they were coming back. I was like, oh shoot, let's see what's going on here. And then they end up winning by 8 and then covering. They're down by 20 at half and covered the initial spread. That's really incredible there. They just it was a strange deal because the dude Murphy, Trey Murphy, the second piece they got in the McCollum deal, hadn't really done much of anything. Had a huge game at 20 points, and Brandon Ingram led the team in scoring in his return, which was great to see. And he was just
28 minutes.
Right. Yeah, had a little minutes restriction. Yeah, that was wow. That was just insane. That was one you couldn't have scripted any better. That was considering all the backstory there with the AD trade with BI being originally a Laker and all that, and then it's always fun seeing a LeBron team blow a lead. It was especially against the Pels, man. That was a fun one. That was one that I feel like punches the ticket for the Pels in the play-in. I don't see any way now that they could fall out unless they go on a really bad run, but I think they've pretty much got
Pelicans,
it now.
Man, there's always a way.
The Pelicans.
There's always a way.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to say it's like a lock quite yet, but it's darn near. They've got it right in their grasp. Just need to win a couple more.
I'm not giving the field on that one, Zach.
Spencer's young and optimistic, but
yeah, I try to be with the Pels. It's tough sometimes, but hey, after last night, I feel a lot better because I was worried there at the half. Like, come on, man, back to the same old Pels, so inconsistent, but right in the ship.
They have 7 games left now. The downside is 5 of the 7 are on the road. The upside is 2 of those are against Portland, who is like fielding a G League roster at this point. I mean, they traded away all their good players anyway. The rest are injured.
Yep, Josh Hart's hurt. Yeah,
that's a couple of wins right there. Now, the way it stands, the Pelicans have a half a game lead on the Lakers. They're tied in the loss column, and they have a game and a half lead on the Spurs. They hold the tiebreaker against the Lakers, not against the Spurs. I honestly think the goal at this point is not just to make the play-in, but to get that 9 spot and get your first game at home. And so they play at Portland on Wednesday. They just need, LeBron's hurt for the Lakers. I assume he's going to try to play through it, but he rolled his ankle last night.
Yeah, and he's out tonight.
Yeah, Lakers lose a couple more, and
here's why the 9 seed is so super important. Because if you make that playing game, if you have to go on the road to play the Lakers, if you somehow win, then you got to stay out there and probably play the Clippers. So do you come home and go back? I mean, I guess you would just stay out there, but it's you want to be at home to play that game against the Lakers. And honestly, it was nice to see. I wasn't there. I wanted to take the girls, but then we couldn't make it yesterday. But it was amazing to see a crowd that fired up. I think that was the best crowd I've seen there since AD was here.
Yeah, you start to think about it, and if the Pelicans get the 9 seed, they will be favored in that game, whether it's the Lakers or the Spurs. And you win that, and then you start thinking about the matchup. You're either at the Clippers or looks like right now Minnesota. I think there's still a chance Minnesota could catch Denver, either way, the Clippers, Paul George has been cleared for 5-on-5. They're trying to work him back in. That I'm not so sure you don't want Minnesota. And I know Minnesota's got a much better record.
Oh, no.
But anyway, the season then comes down to that game at that point.
I don't like Minnesota. I mean, of course, you want to just be in that game, so it really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter. But no, I think they'd be much better off playing the Clippers, in my opinion. But again, either one's going to be tough. Neither are great matchups. But at this point, I got to say, if the Pelicans make the play-in game, win the first play-in game, and then are 1 game away from making the playoffs, that's quite an achievement considering the fact they were 3-19 or 3-20 or whatever the heck it was.
Oh yeah, I mean they played really well for 4 solid months. I mean, not really well, but good enough.
I mean, yeah, I would almost say really well. I mean, especially at times. I mean, this team is laying a foundation to where I think next year they're going to be legitimately good. I mean, I'm talking about 3 or 4 seed, maybe kind of good. They have
if you add Zion in the mix and you have them all year long, yeah, I think they should be that good.
They got a chance, so it'll be fun.
Speaking of making a run,
under contract, so in BI,
yep. Oh yeah, you got 3. You essentially, I don't know if they're 3 superstars, but you got 3 stars. And we see what happens. But speaking of making a run and having stars and all of that, it's interesting to look at these odds change. Of course, the big news across the NBA in the last week or so is that Kyrie Irving is going to be cleared to be able to play at home for the Nets now. New York City lifted its. I mean, and honestly, I think we're all pro-vaccine here. But those rules were ridiculous that visiting unvaccinated players could play, but home unvaccinated players couldn't. Like, what are we doing here?
How about this? You want to hear something that's more ridiculous, not to get into politics. I'll try to avoid it as much as I can. But the fact that they're letting athletes in New York, they don't care if they're unvaccinated, but someone who picks up garbage for a living or is a teacher, they have to be vaccinated. So nothing's fair in New York.
It's what you can control versus what you can't. But yeah, it's the whole thing about a visiting player could come in and play in the Barclays Center unvaccinated, but Kyrie couldn't. Like what?
Exactly.
Does that even make any sense?
We're trying to make a point.
So anyway, he can play. The Nets odds are down to 5-1.
But aren't they going to be in the play-in game?
They're going to be in the play-in. Now they're going to win the play-in, but it's still a little. I mean, their season's going to come down to 1 game right away. Yeah. And they're still only 5-1 to win the title. So I don't.
Anyone who bets that needs to put the phone down, and you shouldn't be betting. If you take the Nets at plus 500, don't stop betting. Put the phone down, delete the app off your phone, and don't bet anymore.
You'd be better off just taking them to win each individual series. You really would.
Much better.
Because they will be underdogs in those last couple of series.
100%.
You know, if they face Milwaukee. I'll tell you, the team that's really on the rise in these odds is Boston. They're down to 9-1. A couple of weeks ago, they were like 25-1. Now, the news did come down today. Spencer Robert Williams out at least a couple of weeks with a knee sprain for Boston, and so they lose a piece. But you got to think they can get through the first round without him, and it's a team that's really hot right now.
Right. Yeah, I was looking at them today, but they're not a good play today, I don't feel like, because they're going to be without Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But they've been on such a hot streak. They've been blowing people out, and good teams, too, for giving both of them a rest. So they're a team they're a team to watch here moving forward for the stretch run. They're with Tatum and Brown playing at a high level, especially Tatum. They could be a team that could give the Nets, Bucks, 76ers. I mean, I think they're right up there with those guys. I mean, their odds of, I should have jumped on them when they were 25-1. I wasn't quite as much of a believer in them back then, but after seeing what they've done, it tells me that Jason Tatum's a legitimate superstar and that they're going to be a scary team to face.
Yeah. Jim, we laugh at the Nets odds. Look at the bottom of the screen. The Lakers are 80-1, and the Pelicans are 250-1. Make that make sense.
It makes 0 sense. The Lakers have a 40% chance to even make the playoff game. I mean, the play-in game, much less win the championship. So
they're not getting out of the play-in.
They're not getting out of even if they make the play-in. I'm not sure they're going to make the play-in at this point. They may or may not. I'm not sure. But I tell you what, I got two futures. I got the Grizz, and I put $4 yesterday on the Pels. So if they somehow have miracles, I'll take a grand off a $4 bet.
I bet I'm looking up what I got the odds at. I bet the Celtics just to win the East about a month ago, and I got them at like 15-1 just to win the East. And so I'm feeling pretty good about that as well. Now, again, they got to go do it just because you got value. I got value on Arizona to win the title, and now I'm out $10. So
when you asked me to do that before the season started, we did the little over under win total. I thought the easiest bet of the year, and I said this in print, so it's not like I'm just saying it now. The Nets and Lakers under win total.
Oh yeah,
I don't. Yep. They're barely going to get there. If you combine their wins, they're going to barely get to where their each win total is. That was the easiest
I just found that it was just 12-1 on the Celtics to win the East, but still, I'm happy with that. At this point, I think they're like 6-1 to win the East. So, pretty good value right now. Elsewhere in the world of sports, we'll talk a little bit of baseball. It's almost April. It's almost baseball time. LSU looked as good as they've looked all season this weekend. They took 2 out of 3 from Florida and really just thumped the Gators on Saturday and Sunday. They're still 18-1 to win the title. I don't know that LSU has the pitching to compete with all these teams on here, but just like we're talking about with basketball, you get into the tournament, we see what your pathway looks like. I mean, LSU can make it to Omaha. They're good enough to do that. And if they do that, who knows?
Okay. That's my analysis. I don't think so. I think it was a fluke. I mean, you look and they like you said, I just don't think their pitching is good enough to win long term. I am happy to see that they were able to bash the ball on Saturday and Sunday, but man, they're too inconsistent to bet on.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I suppose it's another one you wait and you see, and you can bet them in the postseason. But look, they're better than they were last year, and last year they came within a couple wins of Omaha, so it's not impossible.
Here's the deal with this, though, and like you said, their odds aren't going to change no matter what happens. Their odds aren't going to change all that much if you want to wait. Let's see, even 2 months, or not quite 2 months, but wait 6 weeks and see what happens as they're going in the SEC tournament, and see how they're playing then. Their odds, if they go from 1,800 to 1,400, big deal. They're not going to go higher than that, and they may go lower if they have a couple bad series. You're just making a mistake. I think this isn't, unless you're just throwing a flyer out there and a couple bucks here and there. It's a lot harder to predict college baseball than it is to predict college basketball, and it's harder to put futures on unless you think Texas or Vanderbilt are the clear cut 1 or 2 teams in the country, and you want to put some
Even
money
then,
on.
though,
But yeah,
it
I
takes
agree.
2 bad games. Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
It's
too hard.
It's tough. It's tough. So let's talk pros. And opening day is next week for the pros. You can find a lot of odds boosts and things like that around.
Where are the
baseball
Cubs on
futures.
this list?
Not on it.
Oh, come on. They got to be
Yeah,
at least 1,800.
Surprisingly not. Spencer, you like anybody on this list, or are you going further down?
Yeah, I was surprised that my Cardinals didn't make it. I mean, I don't think we got the pitching, but I thought that they might be, I don't like the 20, 25 to 1, they might be a decent bet. But yeah, as far as this list, I like the White Sox and the Braves at 12 to 1. I know it's going to be tough for the Braves to repeat, but they've still got a strong roster. You know, they got Matt Olson, should be a solid Freddie Freeman replacement. They've got the pitching, they've got the bullpen. And it's the same with the White Sox. Like they're both these teams' bullpens are absolutely loaded, and they've got good starting pitching and good lineups. I feel like the top of the board, I mean, the Dodgers obviously really stacked, but they've got some question marks with their pitching. You know, Clayton Kershaw is getting up there, Trevor Bauer's status in question, and the Astros, McCullers is hurt, and then the Yankees pitching has some question marks. So I'm liking the White Sox in Atlanta if I had to pick.
Yeah, I kind of like the White Sox as well there. By the way, Cardinals 25 to 1, Cubs coming at a cool 100 to 1.
100 to 1, baby.
Get betting, Jim.
Put your ticket in. Put your ticket in. $100 gets you 10 grand.
How about plus 550 to make the playoffs for the Chicago Cubs?
Sure, why not? I
expanded
why
this
not?
year
Because I like money.
Yeah,
That's why not.
Well, you know, who doesn't? If you're looking for a long shot, I like the Phillies at 30 to 1. They can hit the ball. They're going to be able to hit the ball real well. They're going
to have to win a lot of 7-6 games, but
which is they can. I'm just not. I don't think that division is all that fantastic. I know the Braves are going to be good, and I think they are the favorite to win. The Mets are always up there. We've got great pitching. Which pitcher is going to blow his arm out in April this year? We'll find out. Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, who knows? Starling Marte is already hurt. They pay all that money for Starling Marte. He's already a little banged up. I'm never worried about the Mets until they actually do something. So I think the Phillies could be a sneaky play at 30 to 1, and I will be putting a little bit down on them.
All right, last thing I want to talk about, it's kind of like not a lot's going on in Saints world. They did sign Traquan Smith to a new deal today. Got Jameis Winston last week. These odds have been pretty static. They had the one spike when it looked like they were going to sign Deshaun Watson, but it's back to 5 to 1 to win the division, 20 to 1 to make the Super Bowl. They got to do something, right? Like poke them with a stick. They got to do something.
I very, very rarely say there's value in the Saints. There is great value on the Saints. All three of these numbers, maybe not as much to win the NFC. I don't love 20 to 1. I wish they were more like 25 to 1, but still,
AFC is much
telling
better.
me that 5 to 1 to win the NFC South? That's insane. I mean, first of all, the BS talk about Tom Brady going to Miami, which isn't going to happen. But if it were to happen, I mean, then they'd go to probably even money or just a little below. But regardless, I don't care who Tom Brady's there. It doesn't make a difference. The Saints you play the division out 5 times, the Saints are going to win more than once. They're probably going to win it twice. So I think there's great value there. And then 50 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, I've already put money on it. I think that is a fantastic value. In fact, it's one of the best values you can get right now on any NFL future.
Yeah, I think there's some value to be had here, especially considering the Saints still have a little bit of money to spend, money that they have freed up to try to get Watson, and of course the draft. They've got some draft picks, so I think there's definitely value here. And we all know it. Tom Brady is not a fan of Dennis Allen. I mean, he's feel like he's kind of in his head. So I feel like the NFC South odds are the best value here because we all know the Super Bowl and all that. The playoffs are such a crapshoot. Where that 5 to 1 to win the division, there's some value to be had there.
Dennis Allen is in his head, and Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan are upside his head.
Yeah, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson's there laughing at the whole thing. Listen, I think the other thing here that you miss is that the Saints have cap room. They're going to add talent somewhere. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, and so I think people sour on them. But when it does happen, like let's say you just throw out Jarvis Landry. I don't know that he's coming.
Perfect
but
fit.
Let's say that he does. All of a sudden, the Saints' offense looks quite a bit different if you have Jarvis Landry on the other side from Michael Thomas.
Perfect fit.
And so I don't, maybe another offensive lineman to replace Armstead. I don't know where the money goes, but the point is they are going to spend it somewhere, and they're going to add talent to that roster. So,
Honey Badger
could be. He's in Baton Rouge
out there. Yeah. I'm thinking the money goes to address the O-line, and then with that 18th pick I feel like that would be the perfect spot to get a receiver, probably either Traylon Burks or Chris Olave.
Yeah, and that's true too. Is the draft.
I think you're better off getting a free agent wide receiver and getting a lineman at that spot. I think the Saints need a veteran receiver to go alongside Thomas. To help Amos a little bit. I just think the Saints would be better served in that capacity. But it may happen, or maybe they get a receiver in free agency and a receiver up at the top of the draft. That's certainly a possibility as well, although they re-signed Traquan Smith today. So
producer Patrick says they got to get a left tackle. I mean, those are clearly the two spots. Look, their defense is elite right now. And you can always add, but their defense is elite. You can always add depth. But where the two spots they really have to address between now and training camp is receiver and left tackle.
Or do you move Ryan Manchek and you just get a really good lineman and find a way to fill in?
Could be, sure. But that's the same story. Like the draft's coming up in about a month. We'll obviously have coverage of that as well. For this week, it's all about the Final Four. We will be back Thursday with At the Book, 4:00. Talk more Final Four, our official picks and predictions. And then we will have coverage all weekend for you from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans as Duke, Kansas, Villanova, and North Carolina duke it out, no pun intended, for the national championship. Bayou Bets, final thoughts, Spencer.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week, y'all. There's a lot in store here, with baseball's on the cusp and, of course, the Final Four. So, yeah, we're going to have a lot to dive into here coming up. And hopefully the Saints, like Patrick said, got to get a left tackle. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that there's still a few guys left out there, hoping they can sign somebody here soon to get that addressed.
Jim, your final thought brought to you by Uncle Big Nick.
This guy is unreal. I will give him credit. I mean, I got to give him credit. He won another $12K this week on his DraftKings lineups.
We're having Uncle Big Nick on the Master Show, that's for sure.
The dude is on fire. Yeah. The dude is on fire. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of circus it's going to be downtown this week. And I just, looking on, and we, all kidding aside, you will talking about the ticket prices. My wife is a manager of a restaurant distributor that she sells food to restaurants. And she was like, what are the 4 teams that are coming in? Is anybody going to actually want to come to the Final Four this year? And I'm like, yeah, there are going to be people who want to come. You'll be just fine. It's going to be fun. Like I said, I am excited about the teams. Although I'm not a huge fan of any of them except kind of Villanova. I've always kind of liked Villanova. This year, I'm a huge Duke fan. I'm a huge Duke fan.
Miami and Gonzaga, which Gonzaga's a great team, not a huge fan base. Miami, Gonzaga, St. Peter's. You could have had a dreary-looking Final Four.
Look, in '93, I got to do one of Dean Smith's last Final Fours. I think he made another one after that, but and now I get to be a part of Coach K's last Final Four. I am just looking forward to being down there and seeing what kind of insane stuff is going to go on, because I think it's going to be a fun one for all of us, not just in the betting world, but certainly there are going to be values to be had, and we'll try to find what they are.
Absolutely, and we will be with you all weekend. Keep it tuned to bet.nola.com. I'll add one more final thought. We haven't talked about it yet. USA all but qualified for the World Cup, so that's good. They just have to avoid losing by 6 goals on Wednesday in Costa Rica. So they should. A forfeit's a 3-0 defeat, so they could just forfeit. Actually, and make the World Cup. My guess is that that FIFA would have a problem with that, and I don't know. You just go down there and play. Plus, potentially, if they win, they get a better seed for the World Cup. So, but they just have to avoid a 6-goal loss on Wednesday, and they're in. Then the World Cup draw is on Friday morning, so that'll be a lot of fun too.
There aren't a lot of scruples in soccer, I don't think.
There are not. They tried, but there are not. In fact, just look at where the World Cup is this year.
Exactly.
And, you can look up some stories about how the stadiums were built in Qatar and all of that. But it is fun, and the U.S. looks for all the world like they will be there. So congratulations to them, and good for us as well. For Spencer and Jim, this has been Bayou Bets, Final Four week. Keep it locked to bet.nola.com. We'll see you next time, everybody.